Welcome to Mudville, podcast about baseball and cinema. I'm Brody Staub.
I'm Nolan Rabine.
We hope you enjoy.
Welcome back, Mudvillians, Mudville villains.
The Mud Villains.
It is Thursday, August 31st, the end of August, start of September. Cue up Simon Garfunkel. We're back.
That's Earth, Wind, and Fire.
No, it's not. Well, no, the 21st.
Wait, what are you talking about?
August, die she must. September, we will remember, whatever the line is.
Is that the boxer?
No, or maybe it's April, come she will.
I don't know that song. I like Simon
Are
Garfunkel.
you
I don't know that
what?
song. Wait.
You don't know that song?
I'm taking to Spotify.
That's insane. I assumed that you, as like the music
I
guy
like Simon Garfunkel a lot, too.
on the podcast, like I feel like I've assumed that you would know Simon and
Wait a
Garfunkel
minute.
better than I would, and I thought that was
I think
like
I still do, to be fair. I think you
I
just
like
have
that
one song over
I
me.
think it honestly...
What album was it on?
I don't know. I don't know their albums. Like, that's what I mean. Like, you would know it better than me. But I kind of like that song because I think it works very well for the baseball season.
Sure.
Because the lyrics are like, April come she will, and then it's like a whole process, and then in September she dies.
I think it might.
That's like the regular season.
Let me see here. Oh, it's on Sounds of Silence. See, I haven't really listened through that album, but Kathy's song is on that album.
Simon and Garfunkel don't
That
have a
song's
song
amazing.
about the playoffs, but
Oh my god. Do you know Kathy's song? Are we going to do a quick Simon and Garfunkel tangent?
that's kind of the extent of my knowledge, to be
That
honest.
song
I
is
was
on that
pretty
album.
surprised you didn't know about
That album isn't
this one.
is good, but it's not. Bridge Over Troubled Water might be the best album. I think it's my favorite album, like of theirs, probably of the area.
Anyway,
time we can do Brody's NPR 70s soft rock corner another day.
Once we start a Patreon, you can just like toss additional episodes onto the feed where it's just like you talking about
music,
baseball, and if anybody wants to hear it, they can listen to it.
Honestly, there's a lot that I would have to say about the Yankees. So I could do that.
We'll definitely do it.
I know that you don't
at
have
some point.
your interest in complaining about the Yankees is gone, but I think I still feel like I have a lot I can say.
Temporarily gone for sure. End of August, start of September, and in this new brazen financial crimes era of Major League Baseball, that no longer means the end of the waiver trade deadline. It means all of the teams who did not sell at the trade deadline and then immediately fell off in August
or bought.
just drop their players and say, fuck it, whoever wants to pick them up can. We're going to save $7 million.
Right.
That's what the Los Angeles Angels did, folks. They cut Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez.
They waived Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez. And Hunter Renfroe, I think. And
Hunter Renfroe.
And Randall Grichuk.
And Matt Moore.
Grichuk passed waivers.
Yeah.
He cleared waivers. Nobody wanted him.
All five of them just waived out of nowhere. Most of them acquired at the deadline.
Yep.
It is the most humiliating flop I have ever seen a team
It's genuinely incredible.
willfully take at the end of August.
The
Truly
one respectful
shameful
piece about it, like the only thing that is worthy of respect is the admitting just how wrong and bad this went. This is, you don't see front offices be this like contrite.
The fact that they're sort of admitting defeat on it now as opposed to it like the end of October or whatever. I don't know about that. I think this is just an example once again of how we're seeing that major league organizations are, in addition to being, the players that we love and that we see every day, are also a financial institution that will cut half of the roster if it means it'll save them $5 million.
Well, or in one case, on the East Coast team who did the same thing, the Yankees saved $880,000 by cutting Harrison Bader, waiving Harrison Bader. Mm-hmm. And of course, I think a lot of the reason it was just him, because people were saying like, oh, what about
Carlos Carrasco was also waived. We should
Carrasco
say
was too, but I think
other East Coast.
I think he also cleared waivers.
Yeah, he did.
So he's just coming right back.
Lucas Giolito, Reynaldo Lopez, and Matt Moore were all claimed by Cleveland off of waivers, who had the 10th priority. I saw a lot of people say
through 9 teams before getting to Cleveland.
Yeah, it was like 9 teams that were just completely out of contention, and then Cleveland was the first one that is in such a terrible division that they're still only I believe they're only 1 game
out of the
playoffs. They just took a series from them over the weekend, I think.
Yeah. Wow.
And
that's amazing.
Yeah,
didn't they shut down all their pitching for pitch counts or something too? It's like what are we doing? I don't know.
Well,
anyway, now they have this
why they
trio
just added
of
3 new pitchers.
Yeah, they're guardian angels.
Yeah, I saw. It's a little bit of a flawed system that claiming one player doesn't then send you to the back of the queue and then let
it's not fantasy football.
Exactly. But it allowed one team to scoop up 3 players, and this probably won't impact the playoffs all too much anyway, because the AL Central will very likely be non-competitive come October.
I also have a feeling this is not a thing that's going to happen again next year, so this is probably a one-off. I
wouldn't be so sure.
I mean, that was my first thought too, is now this is just going to be a thing. You're going to have August 1st as being the deadline, and then if you completely fucking faceplant in the month of August, September 1st will be the waivers. I don't think that that's really viable to do again. The reason that this happened with the Angels specifically, and partially the Yankees, the Mets, it's these teams that were already utter failures, completely misread their chances and their rosters and their ability, and either did nothing or sold off in a way that they had to then ditch some salary. I just don't see, I think these are all 3 very specific things. I'm saying this is not a pattern that's going to be established. These are very specific things that are going on that happen to be the same team doing it in 3 different places, and it just happens to be in the same season. But I don't think this is a thing that's going to keep happening.
Do you think that they would consider bringing back the August waiver trade deadline?
I don't remember specifically how that worked, but I mean it's better than this, where you just have this whole fucking a roster getting dumped off. And if baseball does believe that this is a thing that might happen again, they might reinstitute that. So
I think this is enough of a stain on the season, or at least as it
is gross.
Yeah, forewarning of an instance where it could impact the playoffs more than it probably will this year, and the league might want to get ahead of that. I don't know.
Was Cleveland really did that? How much did that move the needle?
Exactly. But in the future, it could impact it a lot more.
If they waived Shohei, that's another conversation. But it was trade deadline, guys. Any team could have had these guys for the right price a few months or a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. That's another aspect of it, is that the Angels traded the number 76 prospect in baseball, Edgar Caro, among others, to acquire these guys. Then they won 9 games in the month of August and just released them. That's just a horrible look.
It's awful. It's awful.
It's an organization
almost as bad as the Mets spending $100 million to sign 2 45-year-olds and trading both.
I think maybe in this case, the Angels are just sort of signaling that they're flying a little bit too close to the sun here, and that the league might.
No, they tried and failed.
Well, yeah, but the league might realize that moves like this, where you have a bunch of solid players who you could reasonably extend into next year, or just hang on to and keep to provide a decent product on the field for your fans for the rest of the season. You instead just dump all of those guys to save a little bit of money in comparison to what these owners are throwing around on a daily basis.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. If you're an Angels fan, I don't think you can be too upset.
I think you have to be disgusted, and in the grand scheme of things, this is probably 4% of what you have to be disgusted about.
Here, let me just explain what I mean, because by saying not be too upset, here's what you can be mad at if you're an Angels fan. 1, Artie Moreno's a moron. 2, Shohei Ohtani is going to leave. 3, Mike Trout is one of the most talented baseball players who's ever played, and he's hurt all the time. Those 3 things, be pissed all you want. Not going to have a problem with it. This year, the team actually, like, they went for talent in the offseason, arguably not the best marquee talent that was available. Whatever, you can, be mad about who they got, but they did try to get pieces around the edges where they kind of needed things. It didn't really work out. A lot of guys got hurt. They had some young talent. They called up dudes who they drafted last year and this year, and then they went for it at the deadline. And, like, that's kind of all you can really ask for, like, without being successful. So, like, you can be mad that it didn't work, but I think, like, at least they tried to do something. Like, it's, it didn't work, and it's embarrassing as shit that it worked out so poorly. But I don't know. Like, you can say, hey, we had Shohei and they tried and it didn't work out. I don't know. Like, be mad about that. But just, it's like you still, at least they didn't roll over with, with all this and died. Like,
can you be mad at the process if the process was a valiant attempt akin to a Eurostep layup in front of Dwight Howard?
Well, I was going to say, what is that? I think it's from The Office where, like, she's like, can you really be mad at a 3-year-old if they crashed the car when you handed them the keys? It's like,
oh, yeah.
It's like
who's really kid, responsible?
It's me who was in the passenger seat saying, sure, kid, drive.
Well, thankfully, that doesn't apply to the Los Angeles Angels organization.
Who's their GM again?
We
What's
know
his
who
name?
to blame, and it's Artie Moreno. The GM is Perry Manassian. He's new, though. Definitely.
That's right. Fucking
definitely, I'm not gonna give that guy much benefit of the doubt.
Epler came to the Mets.
I heard a rumor this week that the Angels, people in the organization drafting, have such little faith in player development that they're drafting the highest floor guys possible, who are as close to the big leagues, obviously, as they can be.
I don't think that's a bad
and they're doing
strategy.
They're doing an okay job of it. I mean, they've gotten Zach Neto. They just drafted Nolan Shanuel, who's come up and he's hitting like over 300.
Sure.
There's not a lot of pop in his bat, so there's not a lot of like ceiling there. He's kind of like
21 at the oldest, right?
I think he's 22 right now.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a James Loney type.
Okay.
Player.
I mean, that power shows up a little bit later anyway. There's not a lot of 20-year-olds that can hit 20, 30 homers. Like, it's that shows up within your mid-20s.
Ben Joyce, either the kid throwing 105. I mean, I still think he's going to figure something out. In recent drafts, they picked Reed Detmers in 2020, and he was up super fast. Now he's a pretty successful big league starter. He hasn't been as good this year as I had hoped he had been, but he's certainly shown flashes of dominance. I don't think that the Angels are horrible at drafting, but clearly they know how bad they are at developing these players.
Right.
That they aren't like drafting any high school bats anymore. I think that they're just looking at Joe Adell strike out 42% of the time, and they're just like, we will never do this again.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really blame them when they've had a lot of like misfires with their prospects year over year. I don't know. It's but their issue still has been pitching and injuries for coming on 6 or 7 years straight now. So I don't know.
2 years ago now,
one of those is an easier problem to fix. The injuries, I don't know. Every team gets destroyed by injuries, but
2 years ago in 2021, they drafted only pitchers.
Right.
And not really many of note, I don't believe.
I actually would like to check in on that at some point because I don't remember who was in that draft. But
let's all of the pitchers that the Angels drafted in 2021.
Sure.
Sam Bachman, who has been in the bigs for some time.
Right.
Kai Bush, who was traded at this year's deadline along with Edgar Carroll.
Yeah.
To get a guy that they cut a month later.
Where did they send him? Did he go to Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So from one dysfunctional organization to another.
That poor kid.
Yeah. Landon Marceau from LSU. Don't know who that is, so not a good sign.
How do you spell his last name?
Marceaux.
And he went to LSU?
Yeah.
Naturally. Have you ever seen that Go Tigers?
Oh, yeah.
Geaux.
Yeah.
Go Tigers.
That's a good one.
Creole. Yeah.
Luke Murphy, Brett Carey, Jake Smith, Ryan Costu. Well, they're drafting all of the Frenchmen. Nick Jones, Braden Oldhoff, Andrew Peters. The first name I actually recognize here is Chase Silseth, who has been up and who is
in the league. He shut down the Yankees this year.
Well, he had been solid for a month until he got hit by an errant throw across the diamond last week and left the game and went on 7-day concussion IL. And then after that, Mason Albright, who is I think okay. Mo Hanley, Eric Torres, Glenn Albanese Jr., Brandon Dufault, Mason Erla, Nick Mondak.
Don't worry, Brandon. It's not your fault. Sorry.
Nathan Burns, Marcelo Perez. So
I have not heard of. I mean, you know prospects more than I. I don't know any of these guys except for Kai Bush and Silseth.
Not the most successful draft, I would say.
The first one you said was, but I do know who that
Sam
was.
Bachman. Yeah, he was a top 10 pick.
Bachman Freed.
Yeah.
No, not that
guy. He was a top 10 pick. He went number 9 overall.
I'm aware of who Sam Bachman and Kai Bush and Chase Silseth are, which is funny that Chase Silseth is one of those three, but that's it.
Yeah.
So that didn't work.
Yes.
Oh, man. I think that was Billy Epler, too, wasn't it? Who would have
that I'm not sure about.
I think it would have been, which... There you go, Mets fans. How about that? You can take that and run with it. That's such a shame. Man. And this is why. So I actually was talking to my brother about this recently, and I was like, man, I want Hal to sell the team, and I want Cashman gone. He was like, I want Cashman gone. I don't want Hal to sell the team. And I was like, well, I mean, it doesn't seem like he really gives a shit about the Yankees. And he was like, it can be so much worse. And I was like, can it? Like, the whole, job security for life thing has me a little worried, and the appearing to only care about the money, that has me worried. I guess yes, it can get worse. Artie Moreno is in a very short list of the worst owners in baseball. So he serves as your cautionary tale of if you're unhappy with your ownership and you're not like the Orioles, the Angels, the Mets about 3 years ago. I'm trying to think. The Marlins, maybe?
Well, Artie Moreno and Jerry Reinsdorf are probably 2 of the 3 or 5 worst owners in baseball in Los Angeles and in Chicago. And Cincinnati also terrible, owned by the Castellini family.
Right.
I absolutely do agree with your brother on that, though, that looking at how some of those organizations operate really puts things into perspective.
How's very middle of the road, safe, predictable,
Yeah.
And that's okay, all things considered.
And
it's not great, but it's all right.
I've been very open about the fact that Cashman's lifetime job security is the thing that is kind of driving me away from the team. I genuinely think that is the rot at the center of the Yankees organization. But I don't think you can even compare what's happening in New York to what's happening in the Angels organization and in the White Sox, because this is the first season that the Yankees are going to finish above 500.
The White Sox have been...
They still might not. They might win 82 games.
I think it's they have to go 18-13 to not go under 500 for the season, which sounds doable, but I don't know. This team doesn't know how to win.
It'd just be a moral victory.
I don't know. They're about to run out a complete AAA team, starting tomorrow night. It's Thursday, so tomorrow is Jason Dominguez's debut, which we can do a minute on if you want. It's exciting, but the season's over. It's the only thing to watch for. The Angels are. It's just it's just another thing that goes to show that money, also spending and everything, is not the only way out. You have to have a competent GM. You have to know. Oh my God.
Oh, there's your boy.
That's my guy.
Let's go.
Wow, that's crazy. Sorry for the interruption. We're watching the Nationals game, and a friend of mine from middle school is currently pitching for the Nats. Let's go, Joe. Oh, nice mustache. Let's go, dude. I'm rooting for you. He's a lefty. Oh, he's up over 5 on his ERA, but he's still not bad. Tall dude. Big lefty. Anyway, Dominguez and Austin Wells coming up for the Yankees. We can start there because they're probably the biggest names, not just because it's the Yankees, but they're huge prospects. And Dominguez, we've known about him since he was literally 16, and he's now 20. So, he'll be here. Austin Wells is interesting because you've been hearing him a lot in the last couple of years. He was a first-round pick, I want to say, in 2020, 2019, 2020 maybe.
I think it was 2019.
Yeah. Came up as a catcher. They apparently are not huge on his catching ability, but he's going to be playing there for now, and we'll see how it goes. But I don't know. I'm excited to watch him. There's some juice in these Yankee games again now, which is helpful.
The main thing that I think to note about Jason Dominguez is that he was hit with an incredibly unfair comparison right out of the gate by the hacks at MLB Network, who compared him to Mickey Mantle and Mike Trout.
Yeah, that's when he was 15 or 16. It's just not right.
Which, of course, is an incredibly clickbaity thing to say about anybody, let alone a 16-year-old.
Especially a 16-year-old signing for the max international bonus money with the Yankees.
Yeah.
That's all like a perfect storm.
That's going to drive headlines no matter who the prospect is. When it's somebody coming up for the Yankees, that's putting an incredible amount of pressure on a kid who can only barely drive. I think Dominguez has handled it very well. It certainly led to a big roller coaster, I think, in how he had been evaluated throughout the league. There were times throughout like
he was
2019,
then he was
2020 when people were talking about how he could be like the number one prospect in all of baseball.
Right.
And then he started to underperform a little bit, and then the pendulum swung on him way too far, where a lot of people were saying he wasn't going to be an impact player. But all things considered, he has been very young for every level that he's played at. He has hit the ball incredibly well over the past few years. The past 2 months especially, he has been on a tear. And I think that Yankees fans, us included, are very right to be excited about Jason Dominguez and Austin Wells, Jason especially. But there were a number of other call-ups throughout the league as well. A few guys we have already seen in the league. Brett Beatty from the Mets, Colton Cowser from the Orioles. The Cubs are calling up Alexander Canario for the first time. We haven't seen him yet. I feel like the Cubs have had a number of outfield prospects for the past few years that have just been in their system for so long. We've just never actually seen any of them come up. It's been Canario for one, but Brennan Davis and Kevin Alcantara and Owen Casey even, he's killing the ball right now. I feel like there are just so many guys who we've heard about forever and we've never actually seen. So it's nice to get to see one of them debut in Canario there. I think the Cubs do have a lot to be excited about.
Yeah. You know what? We should also the waiver claim. We didn't really mention who took a lot of the waiver guys other than Cleveland. The Reds took Hunter Renfroe and Harrison Bader.
I'm very, very interested in that, yeah.
And they had already called up a lot of the guys that you would have expected to be September call-ups. So their farm system has really been a lot of the guys that have been, obviously, with Ellie. But more than that, I mean, Spencer Steer and a few other, they're rookies. I can't remember, they have a rookie pitcher also. Is Ashcraft a rookie?
Ashcraft is in his second year.
That's right.
Andrew Abbott is the rookie.
Abbott,
He's the one who's going crazy.
The other A. Anyway, so they got Harrison Bader and Hunter Renfroe, which is two veteran bats and, pretty good defense for a team that's kind of what they were missing. Maybe a little bit more pitching, but you can only get who falls to you in the waiver wire, and who you have in your system has already been there again. I'm really kind of in on the Reds right now. They're just so entertaining.
I'm definitely really excited about the Reds.
Electric team.
They've called up so many infielders already with, of course, Ellie De La Cruz and Spencer Steer, Matt McClain. They were already pushing some of them, including Christian Encarnacion Strand, into the outfield. And then that was causing a log jam in their outfield. So the fact that they're now adding two more quality starters,
Yeah.
I imagine that
MLB established guys, really,
veterans,
veterans. You don't have to think about it. MLB players, not prospects.
I can imagine with the level of offense that the Reds have, Renfroe will essentially never face a right-handed pitcher.
Definitely not. And Bader will be their 8 or 9 hole hitter. So.
Or just
or 7
defensive replacement late game even. I don't know.
I feel like he's going to start just because of his defense. And I think
I do agree with that, but I'm not entirely entirely certain. Oh, and I'd also like to mention, quick before I forget, the Mets also calling up Ronnie Mauricio
and Brett Beatty. By the way,
I said Beatty.
Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry.
I missed Mauricio, so I wanted to mention him as well. He had cooked in the minor leagues for quite a while. It's great to have him up now. So very, very nice. September call-ups, very exciting.
Do you think Brian De La Cruz gets a lot of like really confusing like DMs and like interactions and shit
from people who think he's Ellie?
Yeah,
I could see it. Yeah,
I mean that's fair. They must be like, I thought he was on the Cincinnati, not Miami.
It's a good time.
This guy doesn't seem that great.
Did they trade him? This is, I think.
Sorry, Brian De La Cruz. You're fine. You're fine.
Oh, he's a great hitter. Yeah, very, very underrated player. I was rooting for the Marlins a bit. I wanted to see if they could make a playoff push. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. But they had a chance for a while.
Tough division. The Braves on top. Not going to win it.
I do think that this is the
NL's rough, man.
Yeah, it's a tough. It's
all of
tough going.
Honestly,
there.
All of the every wild card is going to be a fucking battle. I'm excited. The White Sox announced that Pedro Grifol will remain as the manager going into next season after firing everybody except for him. So that's interesting.
And they announced that Chris Getz would be hired as the new GM from within as opposed to an external hire.
Which people had said they were going to go external. And
They also brought back Tony La Russa as a consultant, which sounds like it should be a joke.
Yeah.
It's
but like bringing in Mitch McConnell. Now.
Yeah, their next manager is Dianne Feinstein.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, White Sox fans are done, and I don't mean like people are saying, "Oh, I'm done with this team." I mean they're actually saying things will not change until it is sold or Jerry Reinsdorf dies or is out of the picture.
But even then, does he have a kid that he's going to give it to? Like,
probably.
I mean, how old is Reinsdorf?
I don't know. Probably old.
I would also just, do you know the story of Illich in Detroit? Like,
yes,
Mr. I. Like, he was, he went for it. Like, that's how they ended up with all that pitching and talent when, Miggy first got there and the whole thing.
When Mike Illich was alive. Yes. And then his son,
he
Chris
dies,
takes over.
And Chris Illich takes over, and you can now see what the Tigers are now. But it's just, so again, not that Reinsdorf is anything worth, being excited about in general, but it's just, I don't know, like if it has to pass to a son, it could, and the Yankees too, by the way, it can be worse. So as bad as things are now, mini Reinsdorf might not want to spend a dime on anything, not that they do now, but
And we've seen just this year, too, the owners in Cincinnati and Baltimore, both of whom
also are sons,
inherited the teams from their fathers, just outright admitting to the media, we're not going to be able to keep our young cores because we don't want to financially commit to them. We would have to jack up the prices a ton.
I think every fan of the team would not give a shit if you had to pay like $20 for a beer if it meant that you got to keep Adley Rutschman and Ellie De La Cruz. I mean, that's like
other podcasts, I believe, have a bit more intelligent things to say on that than we do. But
that's fair.
Goes along with what's happening in Los Angeles with dumping all of their waiver players, which is just. Owners seem to be saying the quiet part out loud.
And not to circle back, but again, with the whole how could be worse thing, he personally got involved because he went over the GM's head to bring back their homegrown star player. Whereas other teams are admitting that they're going to let them go before they're even, like years away from being out of team control. Like, again, just could be worse.
Yeah.
But still not great. And other teams really need to bring back your homegrown players because that's how you make money in the league if you want to be a great owner, and that's how you win and play entertaining baseball and do the right thing for your fans.
It's almost like establishing a consistent on-field presence creates a brand that you can then market to a community and to a city and to fans all over the world.
Yeah.
I hate talking about baseball like this, but if that's what they have to do, fine, then that's how we'll do it. You want to create a legitimate business for yourself, pay your players.
Yeah, not that hard.
But yeah, there was potentially a very scary incident in Chicago last Friday as 2 women were shot during the White Sox athletics game. It caused mass confusion. It was incredible. It was an incredibly bizarre situation.
It did not cause mass hysteria, which if you watch the video is very confusing, because I saw the headline like people shot at a baseball game, like, and then they were like, this was outside, and then they're like, no, it was in the stadium, look at this video. And I was like, I don't see people running, like, there's no, I don't know, it seemed very confusing. Go on.
I barely even noticed. I watched the video without sound, and I couldn't even see when anybody got shot.
I was expecting to be like, oh yeah, there you go, everybody's running, but no, didn't happen.
But it created all of these rumors that it might have come from gunfire outside of the stadium, which would have been incredibly scary,
right?
It turns out that was not the case.
What happened, Nolan?
This bizarre shooting at Guaranteed Rate Field, which, first of all,
worst stadium name in sports,
made me realize what a dog shit name for a stadium Guaranteed
Awful.
Rate Field is.
Awful.
Like, get the fuck out of here with that.
Fuck
My lord.
Terrible.
Turned out to be the result of a woman who snuck a gun into the stadium through the metal detectors in the flaps of her belly fat.
That is... first of all, impressive. Because, like, how does it not... It doesn't detect it through human fat? Like, does she know that? And she's like, well, I have to beat the metal detector.
It set off the metal detector 3 times.
Oh, I didn't know that. And they just couldn't find what it was.
They couldn't
let her through.
They couldn't find what it was, and I have to imagine the employees weren't going to be like, ma'am, can you lift up the flaps of your fucking stomach?
God. We think there's a gun in there.
like at
although
that
this
point,
lady did just ruin it for every, like, overweight person on the planet, because things are about to get a lot worse for them real soon.
Every fat guy is being gut checked in every stadium in America from now on.
Yeah. But if you needed any other, excuses or motivation to lose some weight, that's really unfortunate.
God, to be faced with that situation of either having to offend somebody by asking them to lift up their stomach, or having to be like, well, this woman keeps setting off a metal detector, but we don't have really any other choice. I guess she's
But we also probably would not fit. Maybe it's just like, what is setting it? Maybe your belt, like, whatever. Maybe you have high iron in your blood, like,
maybe this is just kind of like a metallic lady. I don't know.
Yeah, she could have a plate in her head, which she might have a plate in her thigh now after what happened.
She's got something in her head. So of course she sneaks this gun into the stadium. It goes off during the game. It hits her in the abdomen, hits another woman in the leg who was with her. It was like her guest.
We should say this is an awful situation. It's just like so... The circumstances are so ridiculous that it's funny.
Mm-hmm. If it was like a stranger who was hit, I would feel considerably worse. This is certainly a case of somebody doing this to themselves.
Yeah.
Like, there are just so many layers here, like not only to this woman's stomach, but also to this incredibly American story,
It's so American.
Like,
that's what I said immediately when you told me this is what happened.
First of all, just the mental state that somebody has to be in to say to themselves, okay, we're going to go watch the White Sox play the A's, and the most in the midst of the most disappointing season in our team's history, playing the most irrelevant roster ever constructed by an owner who is moving the team to Las Vegas in what's certain to be the lowest stakes sporting event in America this year. So obviously we're bringing the gun.
Right. Sweetie, pack the gun.
Obviously, we're going to up the blower at Guaranteed Rate Field.
Well, if I have to go watch Esteury Ruiz, I must have my heater.
The obvious thing that you go straight to is the conservative gun fetish in America and the history that the Republican Party has of being so brazen about endorsing radical gun rights in the wake of hundreds of devastating shootings,
Since when?
Many of which kill school children and kindergartners and are just horrid,
awful
acts of
abhorrent,
violence
evil,
that are
gross,
unable to
terrible.
be reckoned with in what we claim to be a polite society. I think also this is just an incredible example of true crime brain.
That's an interesting way to frame it. Yeah.
The idea that anybody that you meet in any location is an inherent threat to your life. It's a completely...
That makes you more of a threat than the imaginary people that you are, thinking are out there at the White Sox game. Because guess what? You're the one with the gun at the baseball game.
Which this woman promptly found out when she fired it into her leg.
Yeah, exactly.
Treating anybody that you meet as an inherent threat to your life is a completely unhinged way to live. And, this is probably the most cartoonish example of it that I can think of.
If you have to think that hard about sneaking it through the metal detector, don't you think nobody else would be able to get one through the metal detector? Although she got it in. What a fucking terrible look for Chicago White Sox security. I mean...
Enjoying a nice and relaxing day at the ballpark, at the risk of sounding cliche, is what life is all about,
It really, should be at least.
If you can't enjoy that without the comfort of knowing that you have a loaded gun in your pocket,
I don't know.
Then you have serious mental issues to work through with a therapist.
Yeah.
Then you take into account that this was an active investigation for days that was rumored to have been gunfire from outside the stadium, and that it ended with the term belly fat is insane.
I do remember seeing, I saw the Twitter thing, I got the notification, it was shots fired from within fucking guaranteed rate field, and I was like, wait, what the fuck? I have to read into this, I have to go through it. Then all of the comments were this is outside. Then they posted the video and they're see, nobody's even worried, this is definitely not within the stadium, and all this, all these things. And then for it to be this again, cartoonish is the only word. This is a joke from Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's...
What does a pregnancy test look like? Oh, so this is definitely a gun.
I don't know what to tell you. I just need it with me always.
Yeah, and I mean,
oh my God.
Again, the person that I really empathize with here is the employee who was clearly faced with the task of having to ask a lady to reveal what's in her belly flap.
Right. You only have a handful of options there. I mean,
the situation that the security guard found himself in is not one that I would like to be in myself. It's not one that I envy.
No, not at all.
But we clearly know which option he went with, which is, I guess this lady's just kind of metallic.
She's just
go ahead,
possibly robotic.
Yep. And then she went. Pow, pow, pow.
No, she didn't. Wait, how did it get fired? Do we know that?
Incompetence, I assume.
But she didn't shoot it on purpose.
Guns just go off, man.
No, I know America. That, but I'm saying this is America. They just pop. But did she
You can ask Childish Gambino.
Try to shoot it?
No.
Okay.
She didn't know. She did not try to shoot it.
Went off.
It went off in her pocket
within the roll.
It shot her. It either shot her in the abdomen and her friend in the leg, or her in the leg and her friend in the abdomen.
I'm assuming it was her in the abdomen.
I would also assume that.
And then it probably
and then it got her friend in the leg.
It JFK'd and governor of Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was the name of the governor again?
John Connolly.
That's right.
Also the name of a successful mystery author.
Ah. Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a little fun little tidbit for you.
Interesting tidbit. Yeah, we
started JFK.
We had an interesting week. We had our new roommate moved in, and then last night we had a long conversation which resulted in
us
on
watching
the movie JFK.
Known conspiracy showcase JFK.
Is it even a conspiracy movie at this point?
No, it's
just
it just presents a very plausible theory as to what happened.
It's incredibly and then it's interesting
at the end,
movie.
Or at least I didn't finish it, but so far the part that gets that I'm to, it's it keeps on presenting you with all these things and daring you to say do you really think that this isn't what happened? Over and over and over again with the Kevin Costner character.
Yeah, Oliver Stone, especially if you put it into the context of Oliver Stone's career, as
calling
a
him naive
Vietnam vet, who made the movie Platoon and Born in the 4th July and so on. The fact that this is a movie about the events that led up to the Vietnam War, and the fact that a president who was going to prevent the war was killed, and then immediately the one who they replaced him with signed off on quote-unquote continuing to aid the government against the
North Vietnam
communist insurgents. Which we obviously know how that ended with thousands of American troops fighting overseas, including Oliver Stone, who then came back to make this movie.
There was no duty, like no obligation, whatever. You weren't fighting the big bad in Europe like it was, in World War II or whatever. This was like very clearly the imperialist war and everything. And if you don't know all of this, I don't know what you're doing. But it's like my dad always talks about how there were kids a few years above him in high school who were getting drafted and killed, and like he always thought it was going to be him. And that's like a terrifying time to have been 15, 16, 17, 18. I have a lot of family friends who I know were there. It's like they don't talk about man. It. It's
It was your
stepdad.
Absolutely. I think that a good way to frame it is that it was the first war. When you think of like Civil War, World War I, World War II, whatever, that wasn't fought against what was a genuine threat to the Republic and to life itself. Like. It was the first one that was instead an operation meant to enrich the military-industrial complex, much like every war fought since.
Yeah.
And JFK is a very good movie that establishes a very interesting theory about how that went down.
Have you ever seen Apocalypse Now?
Yes, I love Apocalypse Now.
I need to watch that.
You know what? We'll watch it tonight even. Maybe not tonight, but we'll watch it.
But
we'll watch it very soon.
Full Metal Jacket, is that Vietnam? It is.
That's Stanley Kubrick.
Definitely Vietnam. That movie, fucking great.
Very, very good movie. I need to watch that one again too, because I think that the last like hour or so went totally over my head the first time that I watched it, which was like 5 or 6 years ago.
You don't expect it if you've never seen it and you don't know that it's two short films essentially. There's not.
Well, yeah.
It's like kind of a disjointed story between the first half and the back half. Like the first story is Private Pile and the whole thing, and then the back half is like are they in Ho Chi Minh and going around? Yeah, it's different.
It's meant to be very like disorienting.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the
Vietnam
war corner.
Movies, dude. They're good.
No, there's a lot of really good. Well, that's like a very the art movement at the time was extremely strong, and there was a lot of people who had access to things for the first time, and when they came back, they had a lot of really good stories to tell. And the people were actually on the anti-war side, which that really helps for the commercial aspect of it. So it's
people were actually seeing the war on their televisions.
Right, that too.
Yeah,
people wanted to know about it. Anyway, if you like war, keep an eye out for our Patreon episode about the Vietnam War.
Where we talk about the Gulf War and Iran-Contra.
Desert Storm and, the Contras. That would actually be fun. We could do, I don't know about fun, but it would be interesting.
We would have to expand our
CIA
borders to do like a straight-up episode about that.
Yeah.
We're still technically a baseball podcast. Yeah. We would We'll get there.
We'll think about it. We'd have to rebrand, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe not. But we'll see.
I think that'll be it for this week on Mudville.
We'll do American Sniper.
Oh yeah, I've never seen that actually.
Really?
Yeah. It'd be a good
that's
one to do.
An interesting one. Man, there's a scene with a baby that is terrible because the baby is like a literal doll and they're like shaking it and throwing it around and it looks so fake. It's really funny. That movie isn't terrible, but it's just like very look how awful this dude who murdered children has it now that he's home.
Yeah, they haven't really made the Iraq movies like they did about Vietnam. They haven't. They haven't been able to find that.
They were very sympathetic, whereas not so much.
Yeah,
back in the day.
They're all like the Green Berets now.
Yeah.
But that'll do it for us. What a good note to end on.
So.
Yeah, if you haven't, by the way, if you're like new, anybody over 30 who has seen the movie JFK probably turned this off a long time ago. But if you didn't, thank you so much for sticking through with us. If you could, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Spotify or Apple or wherever. We just added onto Pocket Casts this week, which was brought to my attention. So there are clearly like a number of like exterior apps that
if
podcasts are on that I don't know anything about. So
it's our job to find you, not your job to find us.
If you like, exactly,
day,
like
which was interesting. Yeah.
If you like our podcast, and you want it to be on a platform that you like, hit us up and we'll do it. That's going to do it for us.
Although, wait, that's kind of a paradox because they would have had to find the podcast in order to ask for the podcast to be somewhere where they usually find their podcasts.
Chicken and an egg. Yeah. It's a very specific scenario, but if you find that it applies to you, please hit us up.
Let us know. And also, if you have any feedback in general, we'd like to hear about.
Yeah.
No.
Just like hit us up.
Always.
If you want to say anything, you want us to watch a movie or go do anything. Yeah.
Now taking requests. Mm-hmm. Anyway. We'll see you guys next week.
Yep, that'll do it.
Goodbye. Bye.